It had been the height of my ambition and my most ardent wish to see America and come in contact with the great Thomas Edison. Accordingly, I undertook the voyage, and after losing my money and tickets and passing through a series of mishaps, including a mutiny at which I almost lost my life, I landed on these blessed shores with 4 cents in my pocket.
Tesla arrived in New York on June 6, 1884. A 28-year-old immigrant, he was filled with dreams of success in this strange new land. In his pocket, he carried a letter of recommendation from Charles Batchelor, one of Edison's associates in Europe.
My dear Edison, I know 2 great men, and you are one of them. The other is this young man.
Tesla came to America because he had tried to get his alternating current motor produced in Germany, and I believe in France as well, without any success. And he realized that there was probably only one person in the world who could help him with it, and that was Thomas Edison.
New York had had electricity since the late 1870s. Edison installed his first DC power station on Pearl Street, near the financial district, in 1882. He did this with help from the great Wall Street financier, J. Pierpont Morgan. But the system was far from perfect.
Electricity was a very new thing. Most people didn't understand what it was all about. They were very afraid of it. There were fires breaking out. The horses on the streets would get shocks through their shoes and run away. So it was a very exciting time for Edison.
I was thrilled to the marrow meeting Edison. This great man had revolutionized the world with his incandescent lamp. And I was burning to show him my motor that ran on alternating currents.
Edison had built his business on the direct current system, and any talk of alternating currents was an aggravation to him.
The problem with direct current is that you can't change the voltage. What you generate, that's what you get. And if you generated power at too high a voltage, you would blow out lamps at the other end. If you generated the proper power for the lamps and you want to go any great distance, then you need copper wire that's as thick as your arm. And the Edison people said, well, that's all right. We'll just have a power station every mile or so.
DC was sufficient to power lights and run motors, but it could not be transmitted efficiently over long distances. By raising and lowering the voltage, AC could solve the problem of distance, but a working AC motor did not exist. In spite of their differences, Edison hired Tesla to improve the performance of his DC generators. Tesla said he was promised $50,000 if he was successful. The offer seemed too good to be true.
I entered the Edison Machine Works, where I undertook the design of DC dynamos and motors. My regular hours were from 10:30 a.m. till 5 a.m. the next day. When I completed the task, I went to Edison for payment, and he laughed.
Edison was very amused by this. Said, you just don't understand our American sense of humor, Mr. Tesla. So Tesla had had enough by that time, and he picked up his hat and walked out.
Tesla paid dearly for his pride.
I lived through a year of bitter tears and hard labor, digging ditches for Edison's underground cables.
But he was still determined to develop his AC motor. With help from a group of investors, he opened a laboratory on Liberty Street, only a few blocks from Edison's offices. There, he began to assemble a prototype of the motor he had envisioned 7 years earlier. Along with it, he developed all the components of the system of AC power generation and transmission still used today. In May of 1888, Tesla was ready to unveil his motor to the world.
The subject which I now have the pleasure of bringing to your notice is a novel motor which I am confident will at once establish the superior adaptability of alternating currents.
Over the next 5 years, 22 U.S. patents were awarded to Nikola Tesla for AC motors, generators, transformers, and transmission lines, the most valuable patents since the invention of the telephone. One of the few men who understood the great potential of Tesla's inventions was the Pittsburgh industrialist George Westinghouse. He visited Tesla's laboratory, and on the spot, he offered to purchase all the patents dealing with the alternating current system for $1 million. Westinghouse also proposed a royalty of $2.50 for each horsepower generated by a Tesla invention. The young Serb was on his way to fortune and fame, while other inventors looked on with fascination and with envy.
In all my troubles, I did not neglect to become a real American citizen, making me a proud and happy man.